Good evening everyone, welcome back to Tom Plays EU4 for absolute beginners. We are back with England and we have finally managed to conquer France and we have an awful lot to do. So, let's get started. Okay, so the first thing we need to do is look at our alerts, because we've had quite a few new ones coming up. We've got a lot of chaos going on. Okay, so our first alert is this one that we haven't seen before. One or more of your subjects has a high liberty desire, which is France, of course. If we click on it, it takes us to a screen we haven't looked at behind the shield, just next to the estate screen. And this lists any subjects that we might have. So the really important, well, there's two important scores to be fair. This one is pretty important. Basically this tells us how keen they are to break free of us, which at the moment they're extremely keen. You could be in trouble if it's over 50% and we're on 100%. The other thing that's important, which is usually what we'll actually be looking at, is their opinion of us, which we can also see when we're doing diplomacy. At the moment it's minus 200, that is probably actually lower, but that's the lowest you can get. But we might find that it takes a bit before it actually shifts from that very low level. Okay, you can also see that it's a personal union, which are often not as valuable as actual vassals, but at the same time, we never would have been able to vassalize France, they're too big. So this is the minus 200 again on the diplomacy screen, which you right click to get to. Or, I mean, in theory it's behind the shield, but you'd have to find the nation, whereas right clicking on the nation themselves is much easier. So it's basically the same information. And a very important thing we are going to look at here is how soon we can start improving relations. 13th of October. I know I checked that last time, but it's been a week. Okay, so we've also got enemies besieging our provinces, which we have seen before, but I haven't had time to pay attention to it. This is the Lollards. They're currently sieging Northumberland, and they currently have no chance of actually succeeding, but that will go up, so we do want to deal with that. What else? We know we have loans. Hovering over it tells us how many. Well, hopefully, unless there's so many they can't fit on here. So we've got 5, so we desperately need to reduce that before it gets out of hand. War exhaustion is high. We don't need to worry too much about that, because that will now start going down by itself. So yeah, we'll just leave that. With too many diplomatic relations, we now have one more than we had before, because we now have France as well. We want to keep those, even though they're costing us diplomatic power, because, well, we'll see. We will get into that, but yeah, having allies is good. Unrest, that's standard. Free advisor slot, so we lost an advisor, that's fine. We currently have a truce with a number of nations. These are the ones that we had to fight France for. None of these are relevant apart from Switzerland, because the others are all kind of our subjects now. France is still over all these other nations for now. So in theory we have all of them, and of course the disputed succession, which we're always interested in, but at the moment we can't do anything with. Okay, so one thing. Did we already cover the coring? Oh, we didn't need to, of course. Right, we won't worry about coring then, because we already had Armagnac as a core. So, forget I said anything about that. Okay, so we can, for now, run this at least until the 13th. And we do have an opportunity to make more arms. So let's just that army, but if we can make a few more we should be able to deal with the Lollards. So let's just make maybe 1 cavalry and 2 infantry. give them our excellent general and send our general up to Scarborough. So ready to attack, so hopefully once we've built all of those troops we can immediately take the Lollards down, which will help us a little. Right, I'm going to run time. Cancel military access, that's fine. Scotland no longer considers us a rival. We've probably eclipsed them. And people making claims. Okay, so we've got new pop-up because we don't have enough rivals. Which is not a surprise because we've taken down France. Apparently we do still have Scotland actually. So we're going to have to pick some more. Burgundy is a very, very obvious rival. And that actually gets rid of the screen, so we don't need to pick another one yet. And I'm inclined not to, so having 3 rivals instead of 2 I think would help our proud projection, which as you can see is currently at plus 100 because we've taken France. But some of these people we're probably going to drop as allies, so Aragon might become an optional rival, and Denmark, I mean, they probably do make a sensible rival in some ways. I'm just wondering if Aragon might be better. And seeing as it's no longer telling us we don't have enough, I might just leave it. Okay. Running time very carefully because I'm expecting a lot of stuff to start happening. We also need to move these mercenaries somewhere where they're not taking damage. There's 25,000. This area has a supply limit of 25. That will do. That will do fine, I think. And keep an eye up here. Okay, so we've eclipsed Scotland now. We can humiliate Burgundy because our rival. Right, this is what I was waiting for. So, Utrecht has entered into a military coalition against us. Right, so, I mean, we can click go to show us where Utrecht is. The Palatinate has also entered into a military coalition. So what's basically happened is, because we have seriously unbalanced the power of the balance of power in Europe, every other European country is going to form an alliance called a coalition, and those are really dangerous because basically if any of them decides to attack us for any reason, which would include Burgundy who hates us anyway, everyone will join in and they will absolutely stomp us and any of our allies that are brave or dumb enough to actually not dishonour their alliance. So what I'm going to do, let's start with Utrecht because I think they started it. So there's a tiny country over here. This area here is the Holy Roman Empire, and it is most of it is what eventually became Germany. But at the moment it is a huge number of small city-states and states, and although each one of them is small, they do tend to band together. We will look at them in greater detail, but at the moment, just the fact that Utrecht is small, I mean basically they're all going to join in. So I've right-clicked on Utrecht, and if we go over to our opinion of it, it's actually not as low as you would think, which surprises me. Interesting. But we've got this new thing when we hover over them, which we had with France as well, called aggressive expansion. So this is basically the way the game keeps track of how nervous we're making the nations around us. So if you look at a nation, I don't know, a very long way away. Who's a very long way away? Kazan. They don't like as much, but okay, apparently it's even reaching them. But their aggressive expansion for us is only -4. So they're relatively not concerned about us having just taken France. However, the nations nearby are absolutely horrified, and they're thinking we're going to be coming from next. So we've got -64. and it only goes up by 3 yearly, so for Utrecht to fully recover from us taking France, it's going to take, was that 21 years? 21 actual years and a bit. So as aggressive expansion goes lower, because it will affect each country differently, Bohemia, you see they've got 42, so they will be fine in, what, 14 years, is it? Basically we're fine, but while everyone will join in the coalition at first, people will start to drop out. However, we can actually help with this by improving people's relations. So this is going to be all about diplomacy. So I'm actually going to start with Utrecht. Normally I'd be like, oh, there's no chance of getting them to like us, but they actually don't hate us that much, surprisingly. So we're going to start improving relations. That does mean we're going to have to pull someone else out for one of the other two nations. So this is why I started early with Savoy and Milan. They're relatively large. Savoy is a bit gerrymandered, but they're also currently stomping on Provence. So I thought they were quite dangerous. They're quite close to France. Let's improve their opinion of us all immediately. They may not join in the coalition at all because they already have a positive opinion of us. I don't know if we'll be able to get Utrecht to pull out. I mean, in theory, they started the coalition, so if they pull out, the coalition might actually end. So yeah, what we're going to have is an enormous bunch of people joining the coalition as soon as we start the clock. And we've also got too few rivals, so I think we're going to have to go with Denmark. We could go with the Ottomans. The Ottomans are huge and over here. I'm a little inclined not to, simply because our next stage of concern is going to be colonialism, and the Ottomans are not a colonial nation. They're too central. Well, they can be, but they're not a major one at least. Also, Denmark already considers us a rival, and Denmark is colonial, and we may actually want to start attacking them at some point. So I'm going to go with Denmark and leave the third one again. There's a chance that Scotland might become a potential rival again in any case. Claiming Lancashire. How very dare you. Okay, Augsburg. Nassau. So because this this is gonna just keep going, because the aggressive expansion reduces, sorry, just realised we need to do France, because it reduces all the time, the longer we can go without anything bad happening, basically without them attacking us, the less likely it is that they will attack. Hofenburg, Würzburg, in there. Okay, so we start improving relations with France. So they have the biggest aggressive expansion on us, and also they force us into a union. But the thing is, because there are so many reasons for them to hate us, their opinion of us is actually going to improve pretty rapidly. So, yeah, basically with only 3 diplomats, we've got to convince all of these people to like us. It's not going to happen, but we will do our best. I believe that if someone gets a positive enough opinion of us, they will effectively be forced to pull out of the coalition. So it's worth really putting on the charm, sending as many diplomats as you can. In fact, we should check. Well, we should probably check on our finances first. We are losing money still. Okay, that's fine. I mean, it isn't fine, but we need to deal with the lollards first. I was going to say we should check if we've got any diplomatic advisors that can help us improve other people's relations with us, because that could be invaluable right now. But I might just pause to avoid distractions and have a look. Yeah, there's diplomatic reputation as well, but that's +2. Oh, of course, that's Margaret Dolenshue. We probably can't afford it right now, but this one, the special ability is improve relations. I think that means they will improve relations with people faster, and they're still much cheaper, and we really can't afford much right now. This is probably going to deplete our manpower pool. But it needs doing. And then we need to seriously look at cost-saving measures. So, with the coalition in place, one of the things that really affects whether people will actually attack us, because bear in mind that the coalition itself is not really a problem. It's people attacking us, and we need to start improving relations with someone else. So let's do the Palatinates, because they also started. So I'm surprised. I would have expected people to have a lower opinion of us than they do, actually. So the first two people to kick this off don't hate us that much, considering they're getting a -62. I should say, this is a lot like a war. These black areas represent areas that have been in an uprising, so we just need to move our troops onto them for a certain amount of time. We will take them back. This one gets taken back automatically, York, because of the castle in Northumberland. See, I'm still inclined to go pretty slowly here. Oh, this is good. Burgundy have gone to war. Ah, that's not so good. Okay, no, actually that's not too bad. So Burgundy have declared war on one of France's subjects, Bourbonnais, which is surprisingly quite a way away, I think. Is it one of these? Bourbonnais, yeah. And because that isn't a coalition, that's actually a good thing, because not only does it keep Burgundy occupied, which is what I was immediately thinking, but because they're fighting us now, basically because France rules Bourbonnais and we rule France, we've assumed leadership, so we're now the main people, but we're only having to fight Burgundy. It's only a shame we don't have any claims against them. But this is not a coalition war. So if we move our general over, we can actually help France in this war, and once we've won, assuming we do win, let's allow people to attach as well, if you remember. Oh, I can actually call Austria in as well. Let's call Austria in then. Do we need to call anyone else in? I mean, Burgundy's pretty powerful, and to be fair, I'm not expecting to have... I'm not going to be doing any more offensive wars for a while. So why not? So hopefully we can utterly crush Burgundy, but the main thing is that once the war is over, we will have a truce with them. France is coming to help, which is good because we seem to be doing worse than our numbers would suggest. It'd be nice if these two nations would join in. Cardinal Minister, I've generally never seen any reason not to go for these. Plus we've got plenty of prestige, which is the one advantage of turning it down. Basically gets one of our cardinals to help us. As a good Catholic country, we probably want that. Right. The really good thing about this is that because we're only using mercenaries here, it shouldn't affect our manpower pool, so should leave us in a position to still be building our army back, hopefully. Okay, so these both have castles, so we can afford to let our morale recover. In fact, what's going on up here? Let's move you over to London. Suddenly feeling rather glad that we got everyone involved. Salt crisis, this is just a general, this is something bad, nothing we can do about it. Oh, okay, time's up. If France is going into attack, then so are we. Would have liked to let morale recover fully. It might actually recover just before we hit, but I doubt it. Hopefully the numbers will help. Castile's arrived anyway, as has Aragon. So I guess this may be the final time that Aragon helps us. So yeah, what I was going to say, I don't think I got through that thought, was that one of the things that affects whether the coalition will actually attack us is the relative power of a coalition compared to our power. And that includes the power of our alliances, because if they attack us, normally all allies will join in. Far more likely to join in than when we're attacking somebody else. Can't guarantee that. I mean, most sensible people will see a coalition and immediately decide that they would rather not, thank you very much, and run away. But it does factor into how the decision tends to be made by the computer, so it's worth having as many allies as possible, certainly any big ones. So we definitely want to keep hold of Aragon and Brittany until the coalition is over. I'm just hoping, or at least until most of it's done with, I'm just hoping that doesn't cause us to lose Castile or Portugal as allies. Or Austria, because I don't think they like Aragon. Or some of them don't. So yeah, bizarrely, we now have a positive... Utrecht has a positive opinion of us. You see, France is already down to -135, so that's good. Where's our navy? I never actually put them back to port. I should move them over, because of course this navy will have to set off. I do that sometimes. I forget that our ships are out somewhere. Right, let's look at the money again. We're currently making money because we're at war and we're raising war taxes. I just want to check our force limit, so we're almost up to our land force limit. Kind of feel like maybe we should just try to accumulate manpower during this war, and then we'll maybe drop the mercenaries as soon as it's over. Okay, so as usual, I've forgotten to check for summon the diet, so let's do that. Prosperity lands in Somerset, Dorset, and English Channel Trade Node. Increased commercial presence, you usually want to avoid these. So investing in prosperity, Dorset or Somerset. I mean, either is good, really. Might go with the nobility, not the nobility. Oh yeah, no, with the nobility. Because a lot of places tend to have low manpower. So if we just find Dorset, Friesland has joined the coalition. Okay, this happens. This is a positive one. We get this now and again. A lot of the time I would use them as he would have, but again our prestige is still very high. So even though it's not much money, I think I might go with the state needs the money. Okay, so Dorset, to fulfill that agenda we just need to click on this twice. And we gain manpower actually. I hadn't registered that, so that's actually really good. These improvements cost less the lower the current scores are. So that was another reason to do military, because it cost us far less military power than it, well, not far less, because Dorset only has 2 administrative power. But it was still a plus. Oh, this is good. All of these are being shown as occupied by England. It does happen sometimes if the nations taking them aren't able to claim them for themselves. I mean, Castile are miles away. I'd imagine if Austria takes, say, Lorraine, they will probably have it down as being Austrian. It's kind of a shame, because in a lot of ways I'd like to take Picardy, even though we don't have claims on it. But the problem is, any land we take from Burgundy will increase our aggressive expansion. So I don't think we dare. Well, as a coalition, I don't think we should risk taking any more land. It might be possible up here, I think, because up here we're far enough away that people don't really care. Although even Scotland has some aggressive expansion, so maybe that's not entirely true. It certainly has less effect, but I don't intend to take any up there either. It does slow us down a bit as England, but then we've made a huge gain here anyway, which we could easily lose. Yeah, we really could. Burgundy is quite powerful in their own right. Anyway, I'm going to speed time up because our mercenaries, I mean, the only thing we can actually do is this mercenary siege. And we can't really move. Tentatively move time. Kind of keep an eye on our diplomats, but we'll get a message when we've improved relations as much as we can, and we're just going to keep going for random German provinces that are part of the coalition, I'd imagine. Brittany would often join in, but that's why we allied them, basically, because they're kind of dangerous because they're on the other side. Although realistically, if a coalition attacks, we're probably doomed. Although, I don't know, because Burgundy won't be able to attack us as part of a coalition for a while now, because they're going to have a truce with us. And they were the most likely people to attack us, so we've been quite lucky that they decided to attack us for another reason, or rather, attack Bormone. Okay, apparently we could call someone else in. I am totally up for calling Brittany in as well, especially because we'll probably be ditching them as an ally. And normally, once you call someone in, they're not willing to join in another offensive war for a while, so you don't always want to call all your allies in, but because we're not going to do an offensive war for a while, we may as well. It doesn't really affect defensive wars. The one drawback with this is that our war exhaustion is going up again. But there's nothing we can do about that. Okay, so we've had this before. We're going to lose some money in order to lose war exhaustion, which is definitely worth it. It's only 40 ducats. On the plus side, it looks like our alliance is defeating Burgundy quite handily. So what I'm thinking is, if we don't want some land from them, mean, we do in theory have the option to get them to release some of the nations that they have subjugated, which is possibly an option. But I'm half inclined to just sort of ask them for money. Like, lots and lots of money. Because we need to pay these loans off. Okay, so we finished improving relations with Utrecht. So once our diplomat's back, we're going to want to start on someone else. So who's relatively powerful? Well, there's Brandenburg, but I don't think they're part of a coalition yet. Baden? Okay, so Baden is. Okay, so our inflation has gone up because we've automatically renewed the loans, which is the other problem with having loans. Right, so what we're looking for is this little symbol here is in a coalition against England. I think it does say who the other members are. No, that'll be on our screen. But anyway, so Baden are worth improving relations with, so let's start off on them. And this is basically how you do it. You just keep your diplomats working all hours of the day. Once we've got France to positive relation with us, we will have a third one as well, or at least once we've improved relations as much as we can, because there tends to be a limit of plus 100, might be plus 200 for vassals and personal unions, or one of the two, not sure. But their opinion of us will only keep going up anyway. It's just that we're improving relations with them because we need it to be positive as soon as possible in case Henry Lancaster dies. Okay, let's keep going. So in some ways it's worth defeating Burgundy by quite a decent amount, simply because we can. And because it's not actually going to harm our manpower pool, although it will harm our allies, so maybe we should end the war relatively soon. Maybe once this castle falls. Okay, so that sort of one gone. Who is reasonably powerful? Münster. But they already have a positive opinion of us, because we'd already improved our relationship with them. Okay, how about Trier? Yeah, Trier's in the coalition. They only slightly hate us, so let's improve their opinion. I'm almost beginning to hope we can actually do this. People hate us a lot less than I expected. But we'll see. So what I think we are going to have to do once the war's over is drop the mercenary army. So we're building manpower, we're building money. We'll hopefully get more money from Burgundy, just because we need to sort these loans out. So that's going to be the real danger point when we drop them. Still half tempted not to, honestly. I might look at how much money we're losing every month before deciding. We've got Burgundy's capital. And there's probably a limit to how much war score we actually need, around 36%, before we're basically getting as much money as we can get, because it's going to be limited by how much money they have. And I'm not sure I see much point in getting them to release cause at the moment. I mean, it would make them less powerful, I suppose. I'm just worried that they think people they release might join the coalition. Although, I suppose they probably can't. So maybe it's worth considering. Well, let's have a look. So if we right-click them. So the suggested demands are they let Nevers go, and they pay us a fairly small amount of money. Now we can make that much, much higher. And they would still apparently accept, so I don't know why the suggested demand stopped where it did. Nevers might not be too bad, simply because it's close to France, so France might conquer it. Or at least someone else might not. And it would weaken Burgundy, who is our rival. On the plus side, we should gain prestige for defeating them because they're our rival. I suppose we can... can't do much. I keep forgetting we've got no diplomats. Which is the other problem with our making peace. At the same time, we do want to reduce war score if we can. Oh, Navarre. Of course. We're at 54 now. Well, let's wait until we get a diplomat back. I keep saying this, keep waiting and waiting. All the time, we're going to have to ignore that. A trade dispute, it's a bit like when someone insults us. It's not a huge deal, and usually there's not much we're going to do about it unless we particularly want to attack them. Leinster also insulted us, but not inclined to go around attacking people right now. So I'm going to ignore it. We'll basically know when this phase of things is over. That's assuming the coalition don't attack, because we'll know it's over then as well. Really over. But we'll know when we've done waiting, when... Oh! Oh, wow! Okay, that was lucky. So we've just become the Curia controller, which is really, really lucky. For some reason the Papal States have announced us as their rival, which is really unlucky. Okay, so we are now the Curia controller. We get all of these benefits. The biggest one that we really want is an extra diplomat right now, but everything else is also good. I'm going to instantly put in 5 papal influence, and this extra diplomat I think we'd better use to improve the Papal States' opinion of us, because they've declared us a rival, which is terrible. Okay, so that's bad because it's very hard to keep a positive opinion with the Papal State while they're your rival, and if someone else becomes Curia controller, they could have us excommunicated. We're safe for now, but only as long as the current Pope lives, and as you may be aware, they tend to be elected when they're already quite elderly, so we can't count on that. So in a sense, I almost feel like I'm wasting the diplomat, because I don't think the Papal State was going to join in the coalition anyway. Plus we could have done with using that diplomat to make peace, which maybe we should. So let's just pull out briefly. Unfortunately it takes 10 days to get back to us from there. Is there anywhere else we can go? We can't go there for some reason. Do they own Brabant? No. Right, they'll be on Liege. May as well join in with that siege then. Battle off the coast of Holland, that's fine. Still making a small amount of money, but I do kind of feel like right, so they're going to end overlordship over Brabant, Flanders and Holland. See, I'm not as bothered about that. So I'm going to manually increase the amount of money they're giving us. 515, and I might... So we've got an option for... lease nations or cancel subjects. Maybe if we just do Nevers? For now? It looks like we could do Flanders. Okay, so we'll take the 2 that are closest to us. And and we'll just leave it there. Yes, so we don't have any aggressive expansion for that one, which is good. Navarro wants military access, they may certainly have that. Okay, so I think... Alright, we need a third arrival now. I really do not want to rival the Papal State. Do I want to rival the Ottomans, or do I want the option of making... Right, I'm going to rival the Ottomans. Basically, I'm not ready to drop Aragon as an ally yet. I think they're one of the reasons that no one has yet attacked us. And... I definitely don't want to rival the Papal State if I can avoid it, because at the moment we're Catholic. Are we going through there? It's just beneficial to be in a good relationship with the Pope. So I'm hoping they will stop rivaling us soon, or as soon as is possible, so we're not in danger of excommunication, which is why we're improving relations with them as much as we can. Okay, sale of titles. Well, we do need money. On the other hand, stability is generally more valuable. But the nobility currently have more loyalty to us. I think we should actually risk it. So we might want to raise stability manually anyway. I do tend to like to have it at 1. Right, okay, where are we up to? I think we should bite the bullet and place the mercenaries with our own troops. Yeah, so the Aragonese alliance is breaking anyway, which is predictable. We can try to keep it by improving relations, but I'm not optimistic. I'd rather it broke with Aragon anyway. So that's a new alert, should have said. But yeah, they're rivaling Castile and Portugal. It's really not going to happen. And we are losing money, so as soon as these troops pop up, I'm going to ditch the mercenary army. We are actually going to bring our ships into land. Should be London really, but they're much easier to see in Sussex. How are we doing? It's a little annoying because we're having to use diplomats for the Papal State, for Aragon and for France. But on the plus side, our aggressive expansion, if we look at Liege, okay, that's still incredibly high. Fair enough. Okay, last jousting tournament, so this costs us money and administrative power, but it will give us army tradition and prestige and morale. I think we should do it anyway. And we should also look to pay some loans off, because those events tend to cost more the more money you have. So if we get 3 of these loans paid, that takes us down to 2, which should help our finances enormously. So we're no longer paying quite as much interest. And once we ditch these mercenaries, non-enforcement of ordinances, so we either let them handle it or we increase attempts. I will increase attempts. I was going to say we should be able to see people being built, but maybe I've turned the graphics settings down too far. You can see them if you left click and get actual Sussex. Yeah, that army's about to be built, so this is a little risky, but we're going to kill the mercenaries and hope we don't instantly get an attack from the coalition. Finished improving relations with Baden. So what we should probably try to do is improve relations with people who are a bit of a way off, so not as affected. Because the more people pull out, the less powerful the coalition becomes. As long as they're actually in it, which these people aren't. There's actually a lot of people who haven't even joined in. Okay, you've joined in that. So, because I was looking at Liege. Was it Liege with their massive aggressive expansion? But I'm wondering if it might be better to go for other people. Okay, so we've lost Aragon. We've finished building our troops, so we want to get ourselves up to our force limit as soon as we can. So we're going to keep making troops every chance we get. They should be cheaper than keeping those mercenaries on staff. And you'll note that we now have no troops on the continent. So that was intentional. We left the mercenaries there. Partly, I'm not sure we could have moved them anyway, because you can't divide mercenary armies up. Actually, let's give them our leader as well. Done a lot of work, this John Talbot. Aragon going also helps with our diplomatic power, so we do want to lose Brittany at some point as well. But happy to keep them for now. You never know. Okay. Oh, that's interesting. Siege ability goes down the more war exhaustion we have. Not to worry, that will sort itself out over time. I'm actually very tempted to boost stability. In fact, I think I will. I do like to keep it on +1. Once we're richer, I'll try and keep it on +2, because then any events which raise it, like that one we did have where we went the money route, it's more valuable because it costs more to boost stability the higher your stability is. That's the point. Keep an eye on this. If this ever gets above 50%, we want to seize land. Right, okay, so on to other things. While this is still going, we've looked at the papal, what do they call it down here, the papacy? Or Holy See, can't seem to make their mind up what the names are. One thing we can do, which is also to do with estates, over here, is there are certain privileges we can give to estates. There are a few that we're going to want to do, but some of them reduce the amount of land we control, and if this goes below 30%, we're in trouble. And that decision we made actually gave the burghers a bit more land, while also giving us money. That's fine. However, one privilege that we can do when we have 20 papal influence is send a papal emissary. They do cost us a few things. Absolutism going down is bad, but they help a lot as a Catholic nation to get us as much papal influence as we can, so I think it's worth doing at this point in the game. I might even just leave it in place permanently. We're not trying to do a perfect playthrough here. Basically, papal influence is good as a Catholic, and a papal emissary allows us to have more papal influence. So, generally a good thing, but you need at least 20 papal influence in the first place to actually do it. Okay, what else? We need to keep this going. With no other ideas, let's go for Liege anyway. We don't hate us that much. Honestly, this coalition is the smallest one I've ever seen for taking France. I don't know if it's because the war took so long or something. Maybe they were less shocked. So if I've just right clicked on England, so here you can actually see all the nations who are a part of the coalition. That's honestly not that scary considering who our allies are. Obviously we've lost Aragon, but it's nowhere near as bad as I expected. Okay, it looks like our limiting factor is going to be money, so maybe let's not go for cavalry. Because we want to get up to 38 as soon as possible. So we're also limited by manpower, but infantry are cheaper than cavalry as well. They tend to get built faster. So, yeah. Can make up for the loss of Aragon much better by building our troops up. Might want to switch to Margaret d'Anjou once coalition's over. But yeah, let's speed things up again. That's someone spying on us, so it's good that we've caught them. Gives us an idea who our enemies are. We will start spying ourselves once things have calmed down. One other thing you can do, I'm hoping we're never going to have to do this, but we may, but I'll cover it now just in case. On the military screen there's an option to mothball all forts. If you don't currently have any uprisings on the way, which we don't, I think we don't even have unrest at the moment, you can probably safely mothball them all and it will save you, I think, half of your fort maintenance. However, if you don't do that, I believe your army improves, like you get better army tradition. So you probably shouldn't do it if you don't have to, which we don't. But it's worth mentioning if you are struggling for money, mothballing forts, if you've got a lot of peace in your country, can save you some money. We may end up doing it later because the whole colonialism thing is really expensive. Ideally, which is another reason I was keen to get rid of the loans as soon as possible. Okay, new alert. This one is, you can enact a government reform. These are generally positive. I don't worry too much about them. But once you get the option, you may as well go ahead and do them. So we already had an unusual one, English monarchy, which reduces our maximum absolutism. This is because the English monarch has never been quite as absolute as the other monarchs, not since King John and the Magna Carta. So we're actually, possibly to the surprise of a lot of people, we're less absolutist than most of the nations around us at this stage. Less, I don't know what the word would be, totalitarian, I guess. Yeah, we probably should have stopped improving relations with Aragon a while ago when we lost our alliance with them. So we've got a choice here. So this is tier 2. I think we can try and change this, only we probably can't, being England. Not to worry. So there are a number of options to choose from. They all have their own benefits and drawbacks. Going for, yeah, I mean, it depends how you want to play the game. They can be a bit complicated and I don't really want to go into them in detail. They're probably more of an advanced thing. So I'm going to go with a fairly basic one, which is curtail noble privileges, which gives us more taxes. And it fits into the whole world conquest idea, which is how you tend to play the game early on, especially if you're playing as England. You're basically planning to take over as much of the world as we can through whatever means. And with that in mind, we actually want to be as absolutist as we can, so curtailing noble privileges makes sense, but that should also have given us even more money, which is good. We cannot possibly be too rich. Okay, I keep buying troops. I'm kind of putting them in different locations just for not gameplay reasons, for role-playing reasons. We could do them all in London if we're doing one at a time. This is taking a surprising amount of time to go down. But it was an extremely long war. Even longer if you count the fact that it was a continuation of a 100 Years' War. And we've been neglecting to keep... Probably no point doing Switzerland on the whole, who is reasonably big. Brunswick are not part of the coalition. Okay, we've finished. How about Berg? Berg are part of the coalition. Let's improve relations with them. Nassau, yeah, they're part of the coalition. Let's improve relations with them. Honestly, looking at the coalition we've got this time, I'm not even sure they could beat us. Burgundy never actually joined, and while I'm sure they'd love to join, we have a truce with them until 1465. Still have a truce with Switzerland as well, so I don't think they've joined. They have not. That's brilliant. Okay. It's gonna run time on. Okay, so this is brilliant. This is what you're looking for. People start to leave. I seriously cannot believe we got away with that. I mean, we did last time I played this as well, but I'd certainly been left a number of times when I've played England in recent years. I've found that the coalition generally did attack and I was forced to give back some of France. So what I was going to say is that if you possibly can, when the coalition attacks and you're forced to give back some of France, which I don't think is going to happen, try to hold on to this province down here, Le Bourg. Basically because we're ultimately going to end up in friction with Castile over colonialism, and this will allow us to make claims on their provinces. We haven't really gone into making claims, but you can generally only do it on provinces right next to you. So this particular piece of land is invaluable. I think it traditionally belongs to Gascony, so if you see something about releasing Gascony when you're trying to make peace with a coalition that's just stomped everyone, well, everyone that isn't on Great Britain, you should be able to keep them off Great Britain, hopefully, depending on whether Denmark joins in. But yeah, if you can avoid releasing Gascony and sort of try and change the peace deal towards the northern nations, it'd be great to keep some of these as well. But in theory, we can make claims on the northern nations from Sussex, so this one is really worth keeping. If we can only keep this one province, it's worth keeping. Normally you get left with France, but France is reduced. So they're like, oh, release Gascony, so this disappears, and release Normandy, so this disappears, and release some of these nations. As it is, I think we've actually got away with it. So, who else? Cologne are part of the coalition, so let's improve relations with them. So Baden, who is here, has already pulled out, basically because they had quite a positive view of us and they weren't as affected by the aggressive expansion. So we should find that other nations start to pull out. See, I can actually do something about that diplomatic insult. Although the main benefit of that is usually to raise prestige anyway, so not a big concern. Okay, finished there as well. Who else do we have? Geneva, and not part of it. They're all under Utrecht still is, but we already did them. Gelre. Improve relations with Gelre. Okay, I'm actually thinking of winding this one up. I'm reasonably hopeful that the coalition is just never going to fire, which is brilliant. Okay, so we've finally got the new technology thing, so we're going to have to look into that. We've lost an advisor, so we're going to need another advisor. So I might even cover them next time. As yeah, it was turned into a reasonably long session. So possibly not the most fascinating because there's a lot of waiting and being scared to act. In fact, it doesn't require any explanation, so let's just quickly make 3 more troops. So I want to get to 38 as soon as we can. We are not out of the woods yet, although I think France probably has a positive opinion of us now, which is fantastic. Yeah, they're still disloyal, but still they've got a positive opinion now. Their liberty desire is slowly going down, so as time goes on, we will probably find that they'll get used to us. Oh yeah, we can improve relations to plus 200. But yeah, even though we're no longer improving relations with us because we hit the maximum, their opinion of us is still going up. And I'm thinking that hopefully over time they will get used to us. We will just kind of become one nation. If not in fact, then kind of as a kind of, it just becomes standard that France and England are on the same team now, so they'll get used to us and eventually they'll become loyal. So that's brilliant. So basically any European wars we have, they will be part of our team. I shouldn't be too optimistic. The coalition could still fire, but I have a feeling we could actually fight it now. Maybe we should be moving our army back onto the continent. But yeah, anyway, so we'll deal with the technology next time and replacing the advisor. No amazingly exciting successions happening right now. But yeah, that was way more positive than I thought. It looks like we've been able to keep France. So after a very difficult 2-session war, which I actually was thinking we weren't going to succeed in even taking France, we've ended up having an easier coalition than expected. Just keep in mind that this won't necessarily happen. So generally speaking, you want your armies away from the continent because you can't possibly win usually against the coalition. Because usually it's like, 50 people. So even with all the allies in the world, you can't possibly win. So there's no point having your army crushed. So you're better off keeping them in England, keeping your navy available to stop anyone landing in England. But even if they do, they're likely to not be that big an army. There's only really Denmark with any real naval power, because Portugal should still be your ally and they shouldn't join in the coalition. So yeah, it's mostly Denmark that's the worry in a coalition in terms of coming here. And then as soon as they'll let you just make peace, preferably before they've crushed everyone. You will find your allies dropping out pretty fast though. And yeah, you'll lose some territory, but try and keep as much as you can, and especially try and keep this peace. And that's what matters. You should still be better off than you were before the war with France. And in any case, you'll have fulfilled that mission on your mission tree, which is always good. But yeah, going to stop there, but it's looking very positive. It's looking like we've kept France. We're down to 2 loans thanks to the war with Burgundy, which was brilliant. Our war exhaustion is gradually recovering. But that's not a bad thing because we still have a lot of aggressive expansion to live down. So it's going to be a while before we dare attack anyone on the continent, but that's fine because we're mostly going to be attacking people up here now. That's going to be our focus. We need to take Scotland and Ireland. Especially Ireland in some ways, because we're looking towards colonialism next and the age of discovery. So we're going to want to start exploring over here, and it will be much easier if we've got the lands to the west of Ireland. So even if we don't take all of Ireland before we start colonising, if we can at least cut a path through, it will help us immensely. But that's all for next time. Okay, that's assuming the coalition doesn't fire up anyway, in which case we'll probably be fighting a war with the coalition, because I think we're powerful enough to take them on now. Especially because they'll be attacking France, so it doesn't matter that France is disloyal, they will have to fight. Anyway, we'll leave it there. Thank you very much for watching. I will see you next time.